By boats.
Big old truck. Working.
We are going to have a meeting in July. Linda gave birth
Yeah.
right away.
I thought for sure he wasn't going to make it back. He had that override today on the that penalty.
May 23rd,
Oh, do you?
and this is the quarterly meeting of the Wolfeboro Budget Committee. And first thing we've got to deal with is the consideration of the minutes of our March 28th. Anybody see any changes or additions that's needed?
I do.
Yes, sir?
Let me just open them up, please. Stand by. There we go. It's just it's the order of something, and find the page. There was a conversation in the minutes. I'm trying to find it here. I apologize. Conversation in the minutes about. Here we go. It was on page. Let me find it. Come back to it, please.
You want a hard copy?
No, I'm just trying to find.
John, I don't have any comments on being right or wrong. I do have comments to make later on regarding items in the third page, about a third of the way down, on interest rates and stuff like that.
You all said?
Page 4. It's the second line. Paul O'Brien stated a presentation was provided to the Board of Selectmen last month, and he would forward the presentation to the committee. The next line was administrative cost overhead allocation. And then Paul O'Brien stated he met with the auditors and had thoughts. That statement should precede the Bob Lohman comment about Linda Murray.
This is page 4?
Yes, page 4 of the minutes. So it should,
Okay.
you see it. So just, Leanne, just move that
Yep.
on top.
I'll just combine it with the second.
That'd be great. Thank you. That's all I have, John. Thank you.
Okay. What do you got, John?
Well, this is something I'll bring up after this, because I don't disagree with what's on it.
Okay, so these minutes are okay other than
Yeah.
the changes we've just
Make
talked
a
about?
motion that they be approved as amended. Or no,
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I have to abstain.
Okay. Minutes approved. It's my understanding from the email from the town manager that we don't have the expenditures report at this time, but you're prepared to give us an update on that?
Yeah, so as you may or may not be aware, the finance director, Deb Sapkar, has left the town of Wolfeboro. We're in the final stages of hiring a finance director. We're in the process of a thorough background investigation right now, which we hope to have completed early next week. And then we will be bringing on that finance director, pending nothing egregious coming back in the investigation. At that point, we should be able to get back to providing regular reports, and if there are additional information that you guys may be looking for, we'd be willing to work with you to try and figure some of those out. That's kind of where that stands right now.
All the expenditures and accounts are all in line from where we should be at this time of year?
I would say we're fairly close on most. I know Public Works had a rough winter as far as salt, sand, labor, that type of thing, and I believe Dave Ford did do a presentation to the board not too awfully long ago, and he's got another one which he'll be providing in the not too distant future. We've got a couple of questions that we've got to address with the interim finance director who works 8 hours a week.
By addressing the problems that he has, are you talking about him transferring some money from point A to point B?
You may have to do that. We're not sure yet, but the bigger problem that we've observed is there's a couple of lines that in every department appears to be overexpended. And we believe one of them is the workers' compensation lines are all overexpended. We believe that may have they call a holiday, where we'll get a refund overpayment.
Okay.
On that, Jim, do you know of any lines that any of the departments are holding back, and then just in case they have to move the money away from them?
No, I can tell you specific with the town manager and the finance department budgets, those are well within line. Same with the fire department. I can tell you that is, I looked at that today, that's at, I think, 36%, and I believe we're supposed to be at about 39 at this point in the year. And again, once the finance director is on board, these things will become more regular, and we're hoping that, in a matter of a week and a half, that individual is online.
Yeah, how about the audit? Is that done?
The audit is, in-house is complete. They're going through finalizing it. I believe they're figuring mid to late July. They're going to make the presentation to the Board of Selectmen, and we can certainly inform you guys when that presentation is going to happen.
Actually, then that's not too late, because I believe usually the presentation is in July, the first meeting or second meeting in July to the Board of Selectmen. And usually the town provides a copy to each one of us.
Yep.
I usually come to the meeting with a presentation, and Chamberlain used to give me one at the meeting.
We can do that. That's not a problem.
Yeah, thanks. And we'll probably discuss it, if we have it in hand, maybe at that July meeting, or the following meeting.
As soon as it's made available, I'll get it to you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any more questions on the 2019 budget and expenditures?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
This may be the wrong time, it may be preempting, it may be whatever. How do we handle the tracking of the A, hydrant fees, and B, the administrative cost allocations? How do those get tracked in terms of expenditures?
Yeah, so I can tell you with regards to the hydrant fees, it's an automatic quarterly transfer from the fire department budget out to the water department. So it's an automatic transaction. As far as the administrative allocations, I believe those are handled the same way. Not 100% sure, but to what I've seen at this point, that's how it appears to be handled. It's an automatic transfer out from one account into another based on the computer software.
And then be covered by the revenue
Correct.
coming into that fund.
Correct.
What is the second one?
Hydrant fees, the administrative cost allocations. There are lines on, I forget the line numbers, but it's the same line numbers on all of the enterprise funds.
Correct.
And it happens to be a little bit of a football right now.
You think?
Maybe a soccer ball. I don't know. Maybe a soccer ball.
So there's two issues with that. One is to understand what the methodology is to allocate it, and then the second is to understand the costs that are actually incurred. And that's something Linda has taken, it was in the minutes we just talked about, Linda's taken off to take a look at. So it's, how do you allocate the cost? What's the percentage that gets allocated to what enterprise fund? And then the second is, do the costs make sense?
Yeah, I guess
Can we get them
I mean,
down?
that's the other question. If
Because they're running high single digits, low double digits, and we want to get those things understood and sorted.
probably need to understand what the formula is and how it was arrived at.
Correct.
That's really the issue.
So background on that, we did look, I think we're back in, I'm being flip here, we're back in the 1870s trying to find the formula, okay?
Yeah.
I gave up looking when I get back that far. The formula probably needs a little refresh. I think it was done based upon how many bills gets, popped out of Brenda's operation. That all worked well right up until the point in time when the water department said we're going to 2 bills, a bill a month versus, 1 a quarter. So I would say it's in flux. It just needs to get worked out, and Linda took that one as a
Right.
no-do.
It's fine. I just wanted to make sure we were progressing.
Yep.
Thank you.
We're talking about cost allocation to the enterprise funds, okay? Is that what we're just discussing?
I think so.
Okay, well,
Yep.
it does need a restudy. And there's a couple examples here that I have that shows that it needs restudy. Right now, the formula calls for the tax collector, 30% of her office is part of the cost allocation out to the enterprise fund. Well, that was set up before they now have monthly bills to this water department, water and sewer. She is expending probably 60 to 65% of her time, her office time, to the enterprise funds, based upon the number of bills that go out and are paid. Another factor that indicates that we need a new study on it is the fact that at that time, the pay for the Director of Public Works was all in one spot, in his office. And similarly for some of the other supervisors in the Public Works Department. Now it's allocated out. So to the different offices of the Public Works Department. Now, so there's got to be a decision made, and maybe it's past making a decision. Are you going to take all of David Ford's position cost and put it back into one spot so everybody knows what he gets paid? Or are you going to go and follow his formula for what his efforts are should be charged out to the different offices? So it does need studying. And I suggest that somebody, maybe one person from, and I can't do it. I'd like to, but I've got 60 hours of this month alone in treasurer's job. We have somebody from the Budget Committee and whoever else that the selectmen so desire, and do a study on it, so that we don't have constantly, every year, discussion. Is this fair, is it not? Right. And so that's what I think we ought to do. Yes, sir.
Apropos of that, I'd like to volunteer my services if you would like them.
I think you did the last meeting as well. Linda Murray and you both said you'd take this one off the table and look at it.
Yeah. So, I'll, just let me know. I have her email me or something, and let's get together and put a schedule together so we can go after this thing.
Yeah, and I would strongly encourage you to sit down once the finance director is on board.
Exactly.
And
as I say, we may be preempting a little bit, but I think we need to get the base work going, and then we can bring him and he or she in on the thing and make some sense out of it.
So, some of this is very analytical. For example, selecting the tax collectors, because you can just add up the number of checks that they process by department. Some of it esoteric, and how much time the town managers spends with the water department as his sole subject, or the electric department, or things like that. So it's not an easy study. That's all I have to say.
Okay, so any other questions on 2019 budget expenditures? Okay. Town manager's report?
Really, all in all, everything's moving along. As you now know, we're in the final stages of a finance director. I believe the Board of Selectmen are in the final stages of a town manager. So hopefully that corner of the building will become stabilized, and then we can start moving forward. I know that there's already some discussions started with Matt Sullivan. He and I are actually going to sit down and have a conversation tomorrow regarding the CIP process. So we're going to start diving into that. And basically, you know, it's just waiting for these people to get in place so they can hit the ground running.
Question. Can you tell us about your visit to the rapid infiltration basin? How that went?
Yeah, so we had the town had a joint meeting today with the town of Tuftonboro. The Conservation Commission from Tuftonboro was there. The Planning Board from Tuftonboro was there. The Board of Selectmen was there. And there's some concern from some of the citizens in Tuftonboro regarding whether or not we're going to have to go through site plan review and whatnot for all of the RIB site, because there's a portion of that, those structures that are actually in the town of Tuftonboro, piece of property that was bought. David Ford, along with Underwood Engineers, a couple other engineering firms that he uses, and New Hampshire DES went through a comprehensive tour of the site. Looked at some of the failures that occurred that you can still see scarred on the landscape. We looked at some of the repairs that have been made, and we looked at the actual functioning RIB site, the pilot program that is putting water up into 19 Mile Bay, the affluent water. It was very well received. It was about a 2.5-hour presentation. Good questions, good dialogue, you know, and nobody took off upset from the meeting. So it was I would call it a success. And now it's a matter of going through the next steps of the process. Eventually, I believe David said he wanted to have 5 of these pilots that will end up putting the affluent into 19 Mile Bay, and you know, the pilot 1 is working. So we're looking to take the next steps. It was a success. So,
You know how much water, or I should say wastewater, Dave is sending up there per day about now?
So numbers like that I don't particularly remember, but I do recall that the current RIB site and the discharge going out into 19 Mile Bay right now is 60 gallons a minute, which is good. It's permitted and capable of 70 gallons a minute. The goal would be over the next 12 months to bring down the effluent pond to a level of basically nothing, so that we can dump the effluent from Wolfeboro into that pond while construction takes place to reduce some costs working in the drier water table. It's been a wet year, but it was really quite impressive to see some of those sites, and to have some of the people from DES make comment about how dry some of the sites actually look. So if you guys haven't had the opportunity to go there, I would encourage you, make contact with Dave Ford and go up and take a look at that place. It really is quite a marvel. And what he calls it is, it's an engineered natural solution. It's basically putting water back into the earth, and it's quite impressive.
Yeah, Conway has rapid infiltration basins, and their system is rated 1.5 million gallons a day. And when you think about all the resorts places they have up there. It's incredible. It's very labor intensive though. A lot of raking.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, the goal is to get to 330,000 gallons a day. Now that's not terribly out of line, and remember, one of the things that has made this successful is the I&I program of him coming into town and taking some of that stormwater out of the sewer system and dumping it in its appropriate place. The problem that we're running into, as you know, with the stormwater is creating problems for us as well in the lakes. So there's a benefit on one end of it, but there's costs associated with it on the other end. So it's a tricky balance.
The gutters from this building used to drain into the sewer.
Used to or do?
Used to.
Okay.
And they fixed that.
Yeah. So it's quite impressive.
You do have $500,000 for this year that hasn't been touched. For David doing, that next site, he wants to try.
And they ship it
We
us.
still have about $3.3 million in the CD for the construction of the final whatever.
We're gonna be paying $500,000 for each test site?
I couldn't tell you that.
Beg your pardon?
Quite frankly.
Just asked him, he mentioned 5 of these test pits at $500,000 apiece. I was wondering if we're gonna spend $2 million just on the test sites, or?
Well, they're permanent solutions.
Yeah, okay.
So they're called pilots, but this pilot is such a success.
And when you're done, you turn it on.
It's,
How many of these things do we need, any estimate, or?
I believe it's 5.
5.
And one of them will be basically held in reserve. So it'll be able to turn off or turn on if one of them needs maintenance.
Okay.
Financially, I think we're in good position.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, one is small. The number one is small. The other 4. There was only 3 to start out with.
Right.
And they added 2 back in 2009, I think. And 4 and 5. And I would imagine number 1 might be the spare. Because it is kind of small.
It really is impressive.
Yeah, it is.
I'd encourage people to go up and see it.
So the future sites will handle more than 70 gallons a minute?
No, that's what they're rated for now is 70,000 gallons a minute, or 70 gallons a minute, and when it's calculated out, it gives us the volume of water or effluent discharge that we need, according to Underwood's engineering services.
Per site?
Huh?
That's per site.
Per site. 5 sites.
Can you give you like a projection of how long those 5 sites are gonna last before we have to?
The thing that I heard today was 50 years.
Well, I hope so.
Well, it's a $60 million price tag if it doesn't.
The system was originally rated at 600,000 gallons. It failed. So this permit that Ford is trying to reach is 340,000 gallons. 340,000, it's a little tight for our, for what we're doing. We still have some expanding to do, but that's where, if we can do 340,000 gallons a day for 50 years, we'd be in pretty good shape. You know, we're building, they're looking to extend Harriman Hill, and we still have to build out the village residential district, so I would say it's going to be close. I found the place very interesting also. But when I went up there a couple of years ago, and when they started with that first pilot, it really is. My understanding of it is that they're artificially trying to keep the water in the ground, so it'll bubble up into 19 Mile Creek, as opposed to breaking out of the hill and
That's why we bought the property. It was breaking.
flowing into it by surface. It's not supposed to break out. It's the same effluent, but it can't break out and flow into 19 Mile Bay. It has to get into the,
Because if it comes in underneath and then chimney effects up into the middle of the stream, it actually looks like a spring in the middle of the stream, and you can see it. You can see it bubbling. But I guess the theory is if it does that and it comes up into the brook, directly into the water, you know, the solution to pollution is dilution, and that's what's happening.
Right.
It's diluting it. Therefore, it's also not getting aerated, and it's not increasing the nitrogen within the effluent.
Have you been to the wastewater treatment plant?
I have.
Yeah. So if they show you a beaker of their product, looks like that.
And that was one of the props up there today. They went down to the basin and they scooped up some water and
Yeah, I know.
perfectly clean.
Yeah.
It's impressive stuff.
And they still have the spray fields in.
To my knowledge, I believe the spray fields are still operable, and they're there as a redundant system in case there is a catastrophic failure.
Right.
Right.
How's that water jet? Is it good? He testifies it's great water.
Any more questions? Absolutely. Manager? I want to thank you, Mr. Pino, for, I don't know who's going to be the new town manager, but you've done a great job helping out this committee since you've been in charge. Thank you for your hard work. I appreciate it.
Same to you guys. I mean, you guys do a lot of work, and this is one of those ungrateful positions that you guys fill. And, it's been enjoyable working with you, and I hope to be able to continue to do that.
I should probably thank you, John, for stepping up in the finance department. Working all those extra hours. I appreciate that, too.
It amazed me when I took a look at the time between the 2005 and 6, which was 15 hours a month. Well, it's not only because of the finance director not being here, but the bank is making me do more work. For example, every escrow account, I used to be able to send a fax.
Yeah.
Now I have to go into the commercial bank and do all the manipulations. That takes some time.
I appreciate hard work, too.
Could I just mention one more thing?
Sure.
You gentlemen may not be aware, I think John might be aware, we've been approached by a foundation regarding the Libby Museum. The Libby Museum has a donation that is coming to them of 200 plus North American animals. It's an extensive, beautiful collection. The problem is the Libby Museum is in tough shape. The Libby Museum needs some attention, and we're really at a crossroads with it. This prospectus that we're in the final stages. We've essentially are waiting for the contract to come from the architectural firm who will be working on the Libby, working up a set of plans. This project has an opportunity for a 2/3 donation of construction, 1/3 from the town. It's a tremendous opportunity. The problem is we've got an extremely tight window. They want us to come forward with this in the year 2020. So we're hitting the deck right now with the architects. We're waiting for the contract. They're essentially running. Alana Albee is applying for LCHIP grants to help offset, which if she can get that information complete, that award would likely happen in the fall.
All of what year?
Right now,
2019.
So, depending on how this all comes together, expect the possibility of the Libby Museum, based on opportunity, a huge opportunity, coming forward this year with a potential warrant article.
Any idea of the numbers?
So the original numbers before we changed or released the architectural firm that we had was about $3 million.
2/3, 1/3?
2/3, 1/3. We are looking, this other firm that we're working with, they're a younger firm, they're aggressive, and they're very creative. They know of other grant opportunities that they're going to work with Alana on, but the hopes are that we can have this put together and have a number for the October timeframe.
Would we have to bond that whole thing, Bob?
Maybe John would know that more than me. So if the price tag is 3 mil and you have a commitment of 2 mil, and the Board of Selectmen makes a decision
The
on.
library all over again.
Yeah, well, and this building. So the Board of Selectmen makes a decision as to what to do, where to get the funding for the 1 mil, and I would say that's going to be bonded, yes. That's a bit high for cash expenditure, I would think.
Well, this is capital, right?
Yes, it would be capital.
And the second question on that, well, I haven't seen it either, but if we could discuss, the second question is, does this place an ongoing operating
Absolutely.
requirement on the town of Wolfeboro?
Absolutely, and those are being calculated in, because right now, the Libby only has electricity and water.
Right.
It will be climate controlled, it will be accessible year-round, but the architectural firm will have those O&M costs for us.
I wonder if
Make it an enterprise fund.
this foundation, at some point, would they be looking to just take over the Libby and take it away from the town? Because I can, from what you're saying, it leads me to believe that they could be heading in the direction of a Wright Museum, which seems to be very successful on its own without any town involvement.
Yeah, I don't think it is. I think the people they're looking to get rid of their collection. This is a private collection.
Holy cow.
It's beautiful,
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
and it's in this town. So I just want you guys to be aware, and if you have the opportunity, please go down and speak to Alana.
Is that a tear down for the old one?
It would not be a tear down. It would not be a tear down.
I just don't see how you can do it without getting the people's vote.
We're going to, John. It'll come, in other words, we'll have all of the items together for October for a vote in March
Of 2020.
2020.
I thought you said the money had to be here 2019.
So the number has to be ready for 2019 for the LCHIP, because the LCHIP grant is awarded in October.
Okay.
We have to have all those numbers together now, and
Well, it just bothers me. There's something wrong with what Bob said. This was given to the town well before my time or something like that, but,
But it's about 100 years old.
yeah. And at first it was private, was it not, Bob? And then it was turned over to the
Yes.
town.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yes, it
I think,
was.
John, you should probably go on one of the local tour boats to find out the whole history of the Libby Museum.
Okay.
Are you driving that particular? Oh.
Dr. Libby.
But, this is my category, like a college elective course. It's not part of what we really need to spend money to keep this town repaired and up and running.
Wolfeboro's history, John.
yeah.
A lot of Wolfeboro's history.
It's elective, still elective.
It's challenging, but it's a huge opportunity, and if we don't take this opportunity, we're going to lose that building.
Okay,
Well, I think what you're saying is we need to price it out. We need to compete and win the grant. At the end of the day, the voters are going to have to say up or down. And we need to communicate to the voters what the capital cost is going to be. We need to communicate to the voters what the ongoing operating cost is going to be, because I know this much about it, but it sounds like there's going to be a need for a commitment of an ongoing OpEx, operating expense, that is going to just push up, our general fund budget. Guarantee, we have to commit, I shouldn't say guarantee, we have to commit to it. I think I heard that. So for us, and maybe you guys could think about it for us, I mean, we do it as a general fund item, assuming we have to do an analytic before we decide whether we want to do it or not. Do we do it as an enterprise fund item? Because there might be some people say, I don't want to do that. But, maybe we'll do it as an enterprise fund. I don't know, but that's kind of a, it's kind of a complicated one, right?
Some of the money we're going to raise is for this year, for our initial, architectural look at this. All of that money is going to be donated by,
So that money was actually appropriated in the 2019 budget.
This current
under
budget.
warrant article.
okay. Okay, so we have the money in place for that. That was my only hang-up with it, that that we would be pulling money out of our budget for something that was not voted
It's
on.
already appropriated under a warrant article, and the Beaver Foundation is
This is gonna go
involved.
for next year, but we have to come to the voters with a thought-through plan, bonding, whatever, however we're gonna fund this, and then continuing operating expense.
Well, your operation and maintenance is your big question then on it. That's
Right.
less than $1 million.
Or maybe 3. Depends on what we don't know. We may have to bond the whole bloody thing.
Yikes.
Question
You might.
here.
Unless you have the cash in the bank, if you have a pledge, a bank is not gonna say, oh, yeah, well, we'll just depend on those pledges. They'll probably ask us to bond the whole bloody thing until the money shows up in the bank.
Well, that's not the way we did it with this building and the library. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What would happen to the animals if they don't go to the Libby Museum?
They'll find them another home someplace.
In town?
Probably not.
Town,
This-
where would they put them in town?
This
Do you have
foundation
any
is,
ideas?
What?
Yeah. Where'd they put them in town? They'd probably find another museum, right?
they're in a private residence in this town,
Okay,
Yeah.
and it's by Beaver Foundation is out of Massachusetts.
Tax write-off.
so they wouldn't stay in New Hampshire, or they,
We don't know what will happen.
Yeah, we don't know. Haven't crossed that bridge.
Tell you, that
they
sounds,
have other places in mind?
Right now, they have the Libby in mind. That's why they've made this huge commitment.
Is there some expected revenue coming back from that?
I mean, I can't tell you what Alana's revenues are in the
that's going to be a non-factor, I think. That's not,
There is a Friends of the Libby Museum organization.
We're getting a little bit museum poor in this town.
That's actually, the Friends of the Libby is actually
rather
calculated
expensive
in,
proposition to-
and it would be, whatever the Friends of the Libby would raise would be a reduction, if I remember the contract correctly, on the town's portion.
If it was me, and then
Question.
it goes bye-bye, I wouldn't feel bad about it.
Is it expected to bring more revenues into the Libby Museum? And does that money come to the town's general fund?
That, the
Has
funds
it-
absolutely go to the town's general fund.
Okay. Is there any calculation in all of this, how much more we're going to get from that expansion?
Not yet.
But it will be.
I would hope so.
how much can you charge to get into a museum? It's not going to pay for itself. I mean, it's not going to anywhere near pay for itself. I think this is a little aggressive myself.
Well, I think what we got to do is we got to put it all on the table, look at it in an analytical way, and my personal opinion is not to come I'm not coming predisposed to it. I sat on the right board. I know how many visitors they get. I know how much revenue they generate. I know how much cost they incur, and so I know their numbers, and I'd like to see the same kind of analytic for the Libby. I think the reason we're bringing it to you folks is to give you a heads up that we're going to need your help here. It's kind of just thinking it through. I mean, it's going to be good to think it through.
Yeah, I say I think it's a little aggressive because just look at the capital the spreadsheet. And we have a lot of stuff we really need to do.
Right.
And this is a desirable project. It's not necessary.
What I call elective.
It's an NTA.
Elective. Yeah.
Jim, where would they
What's that?
add on a back or
Yeah,
what?
it's a similar situation to the library. I mean, the library, the big selling point of the library was that building was in sad shape and needed to be addressed. The library.
What about it?
A big selling point on the passage of that library was the fact that the building was in
bad shape,
It was in bad shape. So you're kind of looking at the same situation with the Libby building, I guess. Now, this town has developed a reputation of having the most museums as any other town in the state. is that something that the town wants to be known for? Whether it's a private museum or whether it's, something that the town supports, like Libby Museum and the Clark House Museum are the two that I'm aware of. Is that something that the town wants to support or not? And I think a lot of that will be determined by what the presentation of the Libby Museum is. If they want to sell the project, hopefully they'll take into consideration, what the town wants or would support.
I got to admit, I'm biased here, because in wintertime, I can't drive on my street at more than 10 miles an hour.
Okay, let's move on to
Thank God I take the other.
capital projects report. The town road upgrades, it says, Pine Street bid much higher than budget, therefore these roads need to be placed on hold. That's on 2019-13, the warrant article capital projects.
Pine Street will be completed, just so you're aware. That Pine Street will be completed. The bid, as Mr. Ford indicated, is higher for all of the roads than what was originally anticipated. We will be discussing this topic at the next Board of Selectmen's meeting. Mr. Ford will be here to discuss that. One of the big questions about it is the warrant article language. The warrant article language did not identify the sidewalk. However, the presentation within the deliberative session on the television and everything out there said that it was a upgrade to Pine Street and the sidewalk. So we're going to discuss this at the Board of Selectmen's meeting, because we really don't want to go in, put a new street down, and have a sidewalk that is in worse condition than what the street is right now.
Or put a new street down, then next year appropriate money for a sidewalk and then dig the street up.
Just to add to that, me and Bob met with David Tuesday.
Yeah.
So you see that $400,000 number for that road, but that is because we wanted DPW to pull back and not do the work. So this is somebody else's baby. Someone else is doing that entire project. Nothing to do with it. Other than they're gonna probably go see it.
Yeah.
But that's why this project is cost so much money.
This,
Pine Street. You'll see it's 399.
Yeah,
400,000.
Close enough.
The bid was actually higher than they thought, but a lot of it's because the town's doing none of it, because we asked them to pull back. So they can do their things that they're supposed to do. So this project will be contracted out
100%.
100%.
So, John,
And it's a fall project. It's in September. We're not gonna do it this summer.
a little bit of history with that one. As you can see, in 2011, the design of Pine Street, Crescent Lake Avenue, was a $95,000 warrant article. The following year, or 2 years after that, it was originally planned to be a bonded repair of Pine Street and Crescent Lake Avenue. And as I recall, I'd have to pull out my book, but I believe the bond number was going to be somewhere around $800,000. So that's the history of that project. Like with many other things, it got pushed out, and now it's it's part of our road allocation. So it was never supposed to be that way. That's why it's pushing these other two projects out.
Which brings me to a point of question. And there's a warrant article, and I'll just use this one that Bob talks about. Looks to me like we got a $19,852 balance. Where's that money go?
It lapsed.
I understand it lapsed. Where's the money go?
It went in, I can't tell you where it went in 2011, but it would show up as a surplus in the town budget and might be used to buy down the tax rate.
Or be used for some other?
No,
Maybe I could finish my question.
there's no other. It goes into either used to buy down the tax rate. I don't think it gets used for any other purpose,
By law?
by law.
Encumbered funds, right?
It's encumbered funds. Isn't that right?
I don't see anything encumbered on this report.
I can give you an example of something that happened some years back, but I'm not quite sure of how things happened. When we did about a $350,000 fix to the public safety building back in, I'm thinking maybe 2013 or 2014, there were 3 funding sources, and one funding source was leftover money from a warrant article for the repair of the Smith River just downstream from the dam, the Crescent Lake Dam. So the original warrant article was for $175,000. They did the repair for a lot less, and somehow that money remained in limbo and was used towards the repair of the public safety building. So at what point does the money return to come in as a revenue? I'm not quite sure about that.
Was that a separate warrant article?
The original warrant article the money came from was the repair of
2011 audit.
Smith River downstream from the dam.
Was it part of the operating budget?
It was a $175,000 separate warrant article for the $175,000. I believe it was cash allocation. There was no bonding involved.
That's right. If they used, what money wasn't used for the police department, that's damned illegal.
Well, if I may,
What?
in the debt service regarding what you're talking about, it indicates that public safety building, Smith River reclassification for $175,000. So they went about it legally. They reclassified it according to what it says right here,
Right.
and utilized it.
Yeah.
As far as the funds you're talking about,
The 19 grand?
I believe they're gone. They just
Well, they have to come back to us somehow.
I guess my question is, when you say gone, what do you mean gone? Is it just gone up in the sky, we've spent it, we've used it, or is it sitting in the general fund?
So there were a bunch of open purchase orders. Those open purchase orders were closed. I mean, there were, when Ms. Zapkar got here, there were purchase orders that were open back to several years, and I think Paul will attest to that it was
Against this particular warrant article?
I don't know if it's that particular one.
bunch of them.
But there were different ones.
What was the vehicle that reclassified those funds from Smith River to the police department?
I would assume that it was a bond because it's in your long-term debt services, so it would have had to gone through debt service, through the bonding process.
Well, I just don't understand it. Once the job is done, and if any money is left in there, then it's returned to the people.
Well, the good news here is you have data in front of you. If you have a question about the 19,000, I'm not being argumentative. If you got a question about the 19,000 bucks, you can come in, you can pull up the audit, and you can look at it and say, where'd that 19,000 go? Or you can, you can ask the new finance person when they come aboard. I don't think there's anybody. I don't think there's anybody, and I'm not suggesting you're suggesting this. I don't think there's anybody that's taking money out of pocket A and put it in pocket B.
No.
But if you have any questions about where the money goes, now you got the data. On 2.64333 million of budget, encumbered 2423, and the balance either got lapsed or got reclassified. Go pull it. You can open up the audit and look at it.
Well, I guess
I think we did find some. We did find some open purchase orders that we kind of help people close them up, and when we say lapse, they go into the buying down the tax rate. As far as I see, they go to buy down the tax rate.
Okay.
Yep.
Because we have the same thing going here on Article 10 for 2018 on Westwood Drive. There's $38,450.
Westwood Drive?
Project complete, Finance Department working on a bond.
That is irrelevant because it's a betterment assessment.
It's a betterment assessment.
It's irrelevant.
Okay.
to the coffin. It's being paid for by the 22 residents of that.
But, you know, again, this piece of paper, you know, it took Dave, I asked Dave how long it took him to put this together. It took him a lot of time to put it together, which I find that troubling. It shouldn't be that hard. And I'm not poking on Dave, I'm poking on our IT systems. But now you have the data, now we got the data. Now we can just look at it and say, you know, where'd the $1,628 of 2017 money go? And you can go find it. And I think that's what y'all want, and that's what we want.
Just my own notification, should the Center Street reconstruction and the additional authorizations be in encumbered columns? They're the only ones that don't match either in encumbered or balance or spent. So that 2 million one and the 5 million 333.
I don't know the answer to that.
Be in the encumbered column.
I don't know the answer to that. Don't we get paid back on that one?
That's a tricky one, because exactly what Paul said, that's a state.
We get paid back
Yeah,
when
we
that
get
project
DOT pays
is
us
done.
for this stuff.
I don't know the answer to that
Great
one.
question.
Yeah. But I think the reason it's not encumbered is we get paid, yeah, I think we get paid back when it's done. It's a 2/3, 1/3 kind of a deal.
I have one other question, please, as long as we're talking about projects. 2017 number, I don't know what number it is, renovations of the old railroad freight building for $95,000. Was there a warrant article in last year's, or the year before's, voting to authorize the selectmen to give those people a 2-year extension?
I'll do some research. I got the book right here. I think that is correct.
Because
I think so.
if there wasn't a warrant
Look at
article, I am really upset about it.
No, I think there was. We'll look at it. I think we did. I wasn't on board.
Memory-
I think I remember voting on giving them a 2-year buy.
Okay, so there was a warrant article authorizing extension?
Yeah. We'll find it.
It definitely was.
Okay, that's all I'm asking. And I guess I'm hoping that we won't see another warrant article for another extension. These people are not going to make it. We're going to end up with that thing sitting there again. And we got $95,000 sitting in the bank doing nothing.
I believe they were given an extension until the end of 2021 in that warrant article.
I think that's correct.
So after that, then,
Yes, it expires December 31st,
2021.
2021, and that would have been warrant article number 31.
Okay. All right, let me just,
Jim, does it say what year? What year did we, is that 2 years ago? Year?
would have been 2000, well, if this expires in 2021, it must have been
Can you get a fancy?
just this past year.
Well, no, it's not. It would have been the 2017 warrant, I believe. Hold on. Let me go back to the first page of the warrant. No, it was the 2018 warrant.
Yeah.
Oh, just to clarify what you said, because I'm new to this. This is all the capital projects, and this had to be created recently, this spreadsheet, because something like this didn't exist before.
Well, these are, oh, of course, it's quarterly report, but it takes somebody else.
Press a button and have it spit out.
There you go. You're on the ISAC, right?
That's how it should happen.
Okay.
This
You're on
doesn't,
the ISAC, right? Okay.
No, that's
Just checking.
this is just include, just the general fund projects.
Right.
Okay, it doesn't include,
Doesn't include Barry's stuff.
the enterprise funds.
Right. You know, when I say Barry, it doesn't include MED, it doesn't, you know,
It's something that, excuse me, something came up. At one time, early in the calendar year, the selectmen would go and say, okay, we're going to encumber these funds. Is that done as a normal course now?
I haven't.
Sure as
I haven't
heck
sat in a
should be.
meeting.
It sure as heck should be, because it would answer a lot of the questions here. Because I've had the feeling that we've been using prior year funds in this year's activities. And therefore, I recommend that you look into that, Paul.
I'm not going to look into that. If you think we have, then you look into it. And with the highest amount of respect, you got this thing, you can look into it. I'm not going to do that.
Well, I don't trust the fact that somebody said, at one time, we would have several $100,000 of unused funds to help offset taxes the next year. I haven't seen anything like that lately. And I question it.
John, I have a question for you.
Okay?
So if, in one of these examples, if we do have a balance, we spend less than what we budgeted in the warrant article, we do have a balance, does that money eventually wind up in the unexpended fund account or the surplus account? Where does it go?
I don't know.
We already taxed the people for this money. These people paid out of their taxes for this money, so the money has to go somewhere. The money that's not spent has to go somewhere.
Okay. I wouldn't know about that.
Okay.
But
That was my whole
it
question,
should
where
be
the money goes. I don't,
part of the funds
just want to know where it goes.
used the
What's the
next year,
process?
available next year to offset taxes.
Yeah, my question is, where does the money go? Whether it comes back to us as a revenue or it just goes towards the unexpended fund account as a surplus. So,
It's just not expended.
you know, that we don't, if this money disappears on us, we always do a good job with the audit. We always pass audit with flying colors. So we just don't know the exact mechanics of it.
We'll have to ask
My only question is mechanical.
Okay.
If it's a mechanical question, we'll gladly get you an answer. If it's a
That's all it is.
If it's a
That's all
fishing
it is.
question, I'm
It
not
is.
going
That's all it
fishing.
is, Paul. It's not, a shot at anybody. It's
No,
a
I didn't
mechanical
take yours as a
question.
shot at anybody.
How
I'm
is
not gonna-
how is the excess?
I'm not going to
money?
get into I suspect we had monies that weren't, I'm not going there. If you have a question on a specific issue, we'd be glad to give you a specific.
Our audits are always unqualified, and it's, we are up overboard,
I agree.
I have a specific question. Does the town need better equipment, hardware and software for tracking this information?
Well, I think the town needs, I think the town needs somebody to really look at this and start asking questions from an analytics point of view. It says we have a 600-page budget. I don't know how many line items we have. How many we got, John? A couple of.
Oh my God.
A bunch. And we kind of look at the budgets. We kind of look at the budgets from the top to the bottom in each department, and we don't look at the budgets through the organization. Okay, so if you want to talk techie, it's query stuff. It's basic query language. It's the ability to understand whether the systems can deliver that kind of information, and then spending the bucks to figure out how to do that. And I don't think that a Dave Ford or a Barry Muccio or anybody in this town really has the wherewithal. It's not that they're dumb. They're just not technically good at this stuff. They don't have the wherewithal to sit down and figure that out.
I believe we've chosen not to spend the money.
Or we've chosen.
We're very conservative about hiring people and spending all kinds of money on this stuff.
I think one of the other issues that needs to be looked at with regards to your question is we have a software program in place right now that we are not using to its capabilities, okay? Now, there was monies appropriated in this year's budget to investigate a new software. When the new finance director gets on board, that's going to be one of that individual's tasks is look at this software and learn the software, teach the department heads the software, and determine is it the right software for us, or do we need to go in another direction?
That's, if we decide to go another one, that's a $300,000 project, just for a whole part.
Just to study it.
No.
No, John, it's 50 study.
5G. Yeah, 5G.
5G.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So can I ask, can you do something for us for the next meeting? Can you find out, say we had a budget, say of $10 million, and to make it really easy, and at the end of the year we spent $9 million. Where did that extra $1 million go?
Sure.
That's the
That's easy.
And then, and same thing with this. Where is this money that's left? That's
Well,
the balance.
remember, there's been a change this year with this one, because this was a 2-year appropriation, right?
Yeah.
So there's a change in that compared to what we've done historically. So, great question. I believe John is right when he states that any encumbered funds are supposed to go in front of the Board of Selectmen for approval in January to roll those funds through the remainder of the year, or a contract has to be in place.
So, John, I look at the audit every year, and so if we have money that we don't spend in the budget, it shows up in the audit as a surplus.
Correct.
Right, but that should go to offset taxes.
No, that's part two. The money goes into the surplus fund. The surplus fund pops up by that amount of money. Right now, our surplus fund, prior to this audit, our surplus fund has about $1.5 million in it. Okay, so now the second part of that is, I don't know whether the town manager or the town manager and the Board of Selectmen make the decision. They allocate a certain amount of money from that surplus fund to pay down the tax rate. That's it. Now, we had this discussion with Becky. I can tell you, Dave Owen used to keep the surplus fund at $1 million. So if we had $1.6 million in it, he would move $600,000 to pay down the tax rate. He paid a couple of years. He paid $800,000, $600,000. That's a decision made by the town manager.
I know there's a state law that tells him what percentage he has to keep in surplus.
Right.
Well,
A guidance only.
right. It's something like between 8 and 13%. But our town is a little more convoluted because we have surplus monies in our enterprise funds. Yes. So that's a little separate issues. But and Becky, I remember asking her a couple of times, and she said, we don't have enough money. Her opinion was, we don't have enough money in the surplus. We're not going to pay down any this year, and that's one reason why we popped up as much as we did. But Dave Owen used to pay it down every single year, but that's a decision that's made at town management level, to how much money to use from that surplus fund.
Bob, you said you asked a question, where did the money go to?
No. That's not what I asked.
That's what you asked.
I asked the mechanical, what happens to the money that is not spent on a warrant article? It's the mechanical function, that's what I asked. I didn't say where did it go.
That's right. You did.
Okay, so we know we've got everything we need for these gentlemen. Yep.
I hope so.
I'd be interested to see how much we have in the CIP accounts. I think last year, looking at some of the stuff, some of those are getting a little heavy. We might be able to cut back a little bit on the annual funding of those. That's just my opinion. I'd like to see how much we have in there.
What are you talking about,
You know, where we put $100,000 in here.
for the fire department?
Yeah,
For
highway
capital
trucks.
reserves?
Oh,
Okay.
capital reserves, yeah.
Well, the problem I have with this, John, and I brought it up, nobody has done a very good job of making an inventory, a listing of all the capital equipment, the highway department, the dump. By the way, I call it dump because it's cheaper than calling it a recycling facility. We pay people more when we call it recycling. But anyhow, the Parks and Rec and the fire department. And it has come up with, starting out, what equipment we have, when was it purchased, what is the expected lifespan, what's the expected replacement cost on all this. So we sort of depend upon different department chiefs say, well, I think that I need this. And the result, they had that grader that was 10 years overdue for a replacement.
Does the fire department have an inventory of its capital assets and what their anticipated life cycle is?
Well, sure.
I'm asking Jim.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Certainly.
So fire department will check off, they got it. And you guys were over visiting with Public Works. Have you seen the capital asset inventory of Public Works?
Yes.
Okay, check that one off. And MED, they looked at who's got MED? Same thing. So John, I think that exists. We may not have been as forthcoming in giving it to you, but I thought we passed it out last year at the end of the CIP and in this budget session.
You did.
Okay.
John?
We got it.
Bob, you say it exists?
Yes, it does exist
Yeah, it's
for all the
like-
departments.
It's like that big and.
Yeah, it's huge.
5 pages.
John, I will get you a copy of BMS 9. That is here.
Yeah, I'd just like to see if there's anywhere we can cut back a little bit.
So in the capital reserve funds, you know, and the other, to your point, I mean, we have, and Bob and I were talking the other day, we are looking at a lot of capital calls coming in from CIP, not just capital reserve, but a lot of capital calls coming at us. And it's, you know, we want to get you guys briefed after CIP is done and before budget season kicks off, so that you have kind of a full view of what we all have to deal with here, because it's going to be there's a lot of asks coming forward.
Well, yeah, and speaking as a representative of the CIP committee, I can tell you that there's going to be a lot of moving at spreadsheet,
Exactly.
a lot, because we've just got two. There's no way we can pay for
Well,
it.
it's just a bunch
There's no
of
possible
stuff.
way we can pay for it all.
But what's left to do? We've spent a ton of money in the past 10 years.
Yeah, well,
Fixing the road.
there's 2 tons more sitting on the goddamn
Yeah, but
CIP
where?
spreadsheet.
What kind of
20 million bucks in the next
22.
next
What kind of project?
22. Okay.
22.
We've been.
Well, if you take the 12 out, if you take the 12 out for
the
the
12
public,
out of PD.
if you take the 12 out for the public safety, it leaves you with 8.
We've got Dockside, Abenaki.
Dockside, the dock expansions, all that razzmatazz.
Community center,
I'll get you an updated spreadsheet, John.
Okay.
public safety
I
building,
mean, they're all on that spreadsheet that I
That's
passed
all
out.
net
last year, so
above.
It hasn't changed
It's
that,
a change.
fixing up the road.
because CIP hasn't started up again.
Okay.
Bob, you said that we do have a listing of all the equipment and expected lifetime and all of that?
Yes.
For every piece?
Yes. Yes, we do. It exists.
It's in the CIP book every year, John.
You had it here when this table was over there, you had it in front of you.
Fire department does the best job. That they have everything laid out to 2036.
Yeah,
Okay,
sure,
yes,
rooms, all
and probably
that
the electric
Everything.
department.
Everything.
Too.
We talked about that, actually.
Everything.
Electric department, electric department's a little different because they don't have the amount of equipment the fire department and DPW does. They have 2 cherry picker trucks and a couple of, so they kind of go, they're not really on the
I want to
CIP.
talk to you afterward, Bob.
Me?
Yeah,
Okay.
just see if I can find that. What you're talking about. But anyhow, I won't belabor
I'll
it.
give you one of my old books, John. They're collecting dust downstairs, so.
Okay, so
When you get done, you can turn them over. The
Nah.
back sides are blank.
So, ma'am, did you have any comments? Anybody any comments?
What?
No public comments.
I have,
I have one item.
Well, I'm on public comments, Sean. What do you want to jump?
no, I have something. I
You want
have
informational items, or what do you want to move to?
the business.
Other business, okay.
Oh, I thought we'd gone past that.
Well, we have, but
Oh, we have
a couple of
well,
members.
you have to excuse me. I guess I'm losing it.
No, that's okay.
I just wanted to say that our representative, the legendary John McDonald, and our other representative, Edie Damaris, hosted and put together a forum where, in this room, with a couple of longtime attorneys,
Governor's Council, too.
John Tobin, and who's the other guy? He's on the executive board.
Valinsky.
Executive Council, Valinsky. They came and they made a presentation on school funding and all of the aspects of school funding, and these 2 guys have been doing these around the state, and they're trying to bring more awareness to everybody around the state about the flaws, the good parts and the bad parts of school funding, and it was good of John and Edie to put this thing together, and I learned a lot that night, and I think what it boils down to is we've got another lawsuit going, and it's going to be a Claremont decision 2.0 somewhere along the line, a few years down the road. So, we're very lucky here in Wolfeboro
Oh, yeah.
with the school district and our tax rate. There are some towns that are in bad shape.
Berlin?
Berlin,
Yeah, I was on television last night about
It's
Berlin.
been going on for a while.
Pittsfield. There are other towns that are not in good shape at all.
I thought I was at the meeting, and I thought the meeting was very non-partisan. I mean, it was just almost like, Dragnet, just the facts, here's the facts.
And
And it was not a partisan conversation, and it was left up to the people sitting there to make your own decision. I thought that was good. That was really
right, it was more of an awareness thing.
Yeah.
But I believe Mr. Walensky, I think it was him. I think he was one of the attorneys who argued the Claremont case in front of the. Was okay. Yeah, so
Tobin was representing the town as well.
okay.
We've represented Claremont for about 30 years.
Oh, really?
They're the attorneys for Claremont. Other attorneys helped out. Walensky was the lead in arguing to this.
They were very good. They were excellent that night.
We had somebody last evening from Gilmanton? Correct. Come to the Board of Selectmen in the public session and asked if we would consider writing some type of a letter. We're going to have to think on that one.
Well,
Letter about,
Either supporting or not supporting the initiatives that would...
well, he came.
I'm not sure we're going to get in the middle
I
of that.
believe he stated a premise that the state should be paying all of school taxes, and isn't that where he was coming from
Yeah, but
last
where do
night?
those come from? I mean, they don't print money, so it's going to come from someplace.
Well, but I believe that was his thing was
Yeah.
the state should pay for all education and not local property taxes. And then he had something, after the tax rate is set, you have so many days to file something. I could. The guy was from Gilmanton. I've heard about this guy, and he's been running around to different. He was at that meeting that night. That
He's come before my committee a couple of times.
Fairly lucid.
Down at the house.
Okay.
It's fairly lucid.
Yes.
Yes.
it's kind of out there, the idea that the state is obligated to pay for all education funds.
I think they had a thing in New Jersey about 40 years ago, some kind of a
Who
decision.
would decide how it gets spent?
Is that right?
I got another subject, John.
Yes, John.
I've been charged by Paul here to come up with an idea.
John.
I've been charged by Paul here to come up with a recommendation on a debt service calculation. And I noticed that you and Bob here have been in communication.
Yes.
That was up to 2021, 2% in some cases, or 15% or something like that.
That's what big spending.
And this has a big impact upon the tax rate. But anyhow, I was fortunate to run into a person at the GFOA, which is the Government Finance Officers Association annual meeting up in North Conway. And the finance director from Dover gave a little presentation on what they did to come up with a financial plan that included debt service calculation in there. They had put together, I got this, well, he told me, he mentioned during the presentation, not of what they finally came up with, but the organization they put together of town governmental people, starting with the mayor and people in the finance office and stuff like that, and two very well qualified commercial people. And they spent a heck of a lot of time on it, and it came up with a final report of about 63 pages long. Their estimation is that the limit should be about 10%. That is the debt service. And we're talking about general fund and not the enterprise fund. Right. Debt service should be not more than 10% of the operating budget. In addition to that, there was a mention in the email he sent me that GFOA has looked into this, and again, their number was 10%.
So we're over that now.
No, we're not. Let me see what we got here.
$868,000
In the book.
for 2019.
Let's see,
In the book.
I put too many things together. We're about 8%. We're about 8%. No,
Are you including enterprise funds then?
no, no.
No.
Operating.
General fund?
Only. Now, that'll have an impact, whichever way we go, because at one time you were preaching, you were indicating, I won't say preaching, that's a little strong. You were advocating a greater percent as debt service until you became concerned about debt service that we're paying. Now,
Got me all wrong, bro.
no, now you're back to saying lately that we should have. Yes,
I'm wounded, John.
yes, I remember what you said. That we should not have so much in debt, in bonded warrant articles. In fact, I think the selectmen took a notice of that, and so there were no bonded general fund projects, warrant articles, in the 2019 budget across the board. And I took a look, then what's the impact have been over the years since 2014 into 2019? The operating budget, general fund, has gone up 17% in 4 years. The warrant articles that were not bonded has gone up 56% in those 4 years. Overall, the budget of the operating budget, general fund only, and the warrant articles, non-bonded, has gone up 22% in the period during 4 years, and CIP has gone up less than 9%. So we're spending pretty much. Then I took a look at old John Bird here, and didn't have this year's taxes. So in 3 years, my taxes have gone up 32%. My valuation has only gone up 4%. And that's because I think everything this year is non-bonded.
So, Mr. Chairman, I want to thank John Burr for doing this, and I mean this very sincerely.
Now, it's interesting also, as an aside, it bothers me that people will make comments, and I'm not poking fingers at anyone here, and not really know what the facts are. Somebody had told me, and nobody here, that the reason our tax rate has gone up so much is because of the school. Well, I took a look at it in 2014, and then I compared it, breakdown between the town, school, which is both state and local, and the county. Over that time period, in relative to the others, the town's portion of our taxes has gone up 1.03% comparatively.
Pretty responsible.
But the school has gone down 0.64%, and the county's gone down 0.4%. So it shows me that if we're concerned about the tax rate going up, we're shooting ourselves in the foot because we're doing it ourselves to ourselves.
John, I have,
Yes, sir.
no, you're the one who set me off on this. on reducing, yes.
I'm not surprised.
In the deliberative session 2009, you, being on this committee, tried to amend about half a dozen warrant articles. You tried to convert them from bonding to cash allocation because you said back then that our debt service was 14% of the operating budget.
Yes,
I remember it very
pretty
well.
high. Well,
And so that's when I went to CIP, I said, we have to get away from bonding and get more
Yes.
pay more cash for this stuff.
But I think it went a little overboard. But what? But anyhow, I'm fortunate here, gentlemen, because the longer I'm here, the worse my memory is.
What John did is he provided me with a copy of that report, but what also John brought back was a copy of rating agency, Moody's. Moody's has gone across and looked at other states and looked at other municipalities and kind of did a homogenize, what's a right debt service. And the reason I asked John to do it is I know he's been passionate about it, and the reason I shared it with Bob is I know you've been passionate about it. Look, we have three choices when we look at all these projects. We can raise the tax rate, just pump it up through the general fund. We can lever ourselves and then worry about cash flow, and take out revolving lines of credit if we have to, which I'm not sure that's probably the prudent thing to do. Or we can cut back on things to do. We can put balance in this. And I don't know enough about how much leverage this municipality can handle. I want to know that as a select person, and I also want to know that as a CIP member now. I really want to know what we're playing with, so we don't waste anybody's time having a whole bunch of projects come forward, and we all get all excited about it, and then we say, we can't afford it. We should know up front what our appetite is to spend, and and the consequence of that, and then we should push those projects through that knothole and figure out which ones stay and which ones go out in the parking lot for another year to get looked at.
Part of that discussion ought to be letting the population know what the CIP and what the selectmen and what the budget committee is comfortable putting forward. So if we're going to have these X amount of $1 million projects and different things, and yes, what we can afford and what we're looking to do, they ought to have a part in that too, and just say, we as a body, the selectmen, the town manager, budget committee, and CIP, we're willing to put forth these kind of projects, and this is going to do this to the foreseeable future. I just want to make sure.
Well, we do that, right?
No, I don't think we do. I don't think we ever do a good enough job saying these are the projects and this is going to be the impact, because everybody will always say, I'm all for good projects or for whatever it might be. Okay. I don't think they really have a clear understanding of what that actually means to their own pocketbook. And that's all I'm saying. Okay. So yeah, I love your idea as far as getting
I just think
we
more
want to
clarity.
find, and then just present it to us, and then collectively present it to, just the same thing we did with the fire department.
It's a classic example is the road upgrades. Never, ever recorded history of the warrant articles for road upgrades ever been voted down. Never. Gone from 600,000 to 800,000 to 860 to whatever, and the public says, okay, fine, we need good roads. Absolutely. They just don't pay any attention to the impact, and I think, to Steve's point, I think we really, some of these things, I'm not saying we shouldn't be doing road upgrades, don't get me wrong, but there's, to your point, I don't think the public really, when they look at that ballot and they see 40 cents on the tax rate, oh, big deal. You don't understand what that 40 cents is.
You hear what he's talking about?
But I also, Steve's point, I agree with you, but the Budget Committee voted down the town restroom docks, and the voters voted for it. So
I know.
usually it goes the other way around. Usually if the Budget Committee says no,
Budget committee voted against that?
we voted
The
against
restrooms
it.
at the dockside?
Yeah.
We voted it down.
Yeah, I did.
And,
I think pushing and shoving is good, though. I think
oh,
that's
yeah,
good. I
either
think
that
we
or
should
something.
have that. We should
But
be
the town
shoving at each other.
shot it. They voted for it, so it can happen.
That was just not recommended.
Not recommended.
Not recommended.
The other one got voted down.
I have a follow-up question for Paul. At our last meeting, you talked about solar panels for the library as a possible way to save money in the future. Was that ever, where did that end up? I knew it was going to be an additional expenditure now, but the cost saving in the future probably made it worthwhile to do. And I'm just wondering if we went ahead with that or not.
So the library came forward with a proposal to put panels up on the roof And the way they were going to pay for it was under what is called a purchase power agreement. Okay, a purchase power agreement is for a period of, and I think the financial period was 20 or 25 years. I may be wrong. But for 20 or 25 years, you lock in a rate with the provider, and they sell you power. And then you net meter the power back to the electric company. That all sounded really good. Barry Muccio did a really good job coming forward with his net metering interconnect, because there's a capital cost to hook a wire up to a transformer, and somebody got to pay for that. So we clearly knew what that was. The challenge with the purchase power agreement was that I'll try to make it simple. How would you like to buy my Samsung Galaxy S7 phone and pay me $20 a month for the next 20 years? The answer is no.
Like a Verizon.
In fact, it is. It's so in the purchase power agreement, and I was the one who actually said I didn't think it was a good idea. In the purchase power agreement, I've seen others at larger scale, utility scale purchase power agreements, where there's a period of time in the contract where you kind of stop, you open up the contract, you look at the technology, and you get a technology refresh. You get better panels or better inverters. There was nothing in that purchase power agreement for that. And I'm not being critical of the purveyor. I mean, maybe they're just not doing that. So I said I couldn't be supportive of paying a fixed amount of money for 20 years, because what I do know is the price of generation, micro generation, is going down. The price of generation out there is going up. And so I wasn't very supportive. I would have loved to have them put forward a warrant article. I really could have said, put a warrant article up, and it was going to be like $75,000 or $80,000 to do it. I said, put up a warrant article, because you will be able to become a net zero building. You effectively will fund out of your savings. You'll fund it pretty promptly. You'll get a 5-6 year payback. Rather than lease for 20 years. Yeah, it's like leasing a Dodge truck for 20 years. So they're back at it again. They're trying to figure out what's the right strategy. And I'll be honest with you, I think that in the days of panels, I think it's a buy. It's not a lease. And I know that and the argument was there's an optics argument. If I lease something for a long time, it doesn't look really bad on my budget. And I said, well, I'd much rather be right financially for the town. So I think they're going to come back. They're trying to scratch up some donations, some money, some grants, and things of that nature.
I don't think that
they're ready to go, man.
I don't think anybody in the town government, for sure, the budget committee, is afraid of spending money if there's a return.
Right.
Exactly.
Nobody is.
I think that's right.
The issue really is you're spending the money where there isn't any return.
I think the people in the town, and I'm not going to pick on anything, but I think people in the town see value in things, whether it be a road upgrade or something. But I think
You talked about the knothole.
Yeah, we got to
The ones that go through the knothole are the ones that give us a payback.
More solar in our town would be smart. The challenge is going to be if we take demand off of the electric network. If demand goes down, his prices will go up. It's just the way utilities work. And so, MED is got to come up with some strategies to, instead of the prices going this way, have the prices kind of go that way. That's a hard thing for MED to do. It's not because they're not capable. It's a utility challenge that they have.
They also have to generate for peak demand. Some of that capacity ice fell out of.
Like a motion?
Yeah, you want a motion? On that one, Matt, I mean, the strategy that we're looking at for municipal electric is very similar to what is taking place in a handful of other municipal electric companies around, not around New Hampshire, but around other parts of New England. And we've actually gone and seen them. And they're using some kind of cutting edge stuff, big not little batteries, big utility scale batteries that when power goes up, they shave the peak off the top. And if you're interested in that stuff, Sterling Electric is just about the same size as us. same population as us, same crew in the electric department, the same consultant that Barry uses to do his thing, and they have a very different model. It's not that our guys haven't been able to play, it's that there's a different attitude down there about about giving big grants for things like batteries. I mean, and you want to get this thing done, you got to get some grant money, because Barry can't pony up a couple of $1 million. It's not going to happen. The voters would be upset, and we'd all be upset. But you want to look at how that gets done. I mean, there is a place where larger organizations can.
Are there grants out there for batteries?
Yes, the United States Department of Energy grants, Sandia Laboratories, every municipal in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts has them. We didn't get the memo.
I'd like to make a motion here that we adjourn, and
Second. Any further
I'm not
discussion?
trying to cut you off, but
Please adjourn. Please.
Okay, the motion to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Everyone have a good holiday, 4th.
Budweiser time.